All right, today is the 15th of June, and we are here for CI/CD UX review. And the presenter for today is Emily. She's going to talk about the outcome from the recent design sprint. All right, Emily, to you.
Cool. Sounds good. So I'll spend the first little bit just going over what we were solving for in the design sprint, just so everyone has some background. So our current environments feature is really like an afterthought of CI/CD, and we're looking to kind of rethink it and build on the knowledge we've learned from all the past research and have it as like the deployment platform. So where you go to kind of control your deployments, just kind of rethink of how users are using it, because we know currently that environments isn't working super well for a lot of users, just the way we currently have it set up and everything. So we decided to host a design sprint on this to kind of come up with a concept very quickly in like a week and a half. So I will kind of share my screen. The Zoom thing came up on the screen I was going to share, so I don't know which one it is. Okay, there we go. Cool. So just to give like a very, very quick overview of what we did, I think I already talked with some of you about this, so I won't go in too much detail, but we spent day one kind of recording our thoughts on previous research, competitors, the environments feature as it is now, to kind of bring up different problems that it currently is having and what competitors are doing differently. So we kind of used the how might we mapping. So through that, those recordings came up with different opportunities we wanted to solve for. And the top voted how might we's there are how we're currently the relevant information we're showing on the environments page just isn't there. And like we're not presenting the actions or information in the right way either that works for users' workflows. So through that, we went through some like ideation sessions of like how we could rethink environments. And the one I really want to like zoom in on is this particular one, where currently we see environments more as like a linear. So like you go through dev, GA, staging, prod. Whereas we really should think of environments as like this matrix where you have your environments, but you also have your services. So like your APIs going through these environments. And how do we kind of visualize this? Because this is done really badly right now, is that like moving services through environments. There's not really a good visual of how users do that. So rethinking things around there, as well as rethinking like we have very bad like notification system with our environments and deployments right now. So how can we integrate with notifications, and how do we rethink of it from like the group project details view and go on from there. So lots of great ideas. I was really, really happy. Everyone on the team was super into the sketching exercise, which was really great. So from there, we kind of built out like, okay, if we're going to go forward with like this matrix version instead of a linear way of dealing with environments, how do we kind of work that into a storyboard? So we thought of, okay, how do notifications work with this? How could this work on like our homepage? How could this work with kind of like the group or project level? And maybe there's like MR integration with this too, like that environments widget. How would that like evolve? And then a service page for like each service. What would that look like? So we kind of then jumped into like different iterations of the prototype. So we have like iteration one, where we did one version quickly, had the team leave comments, feedback, jumped into version two, another feedback session. And then we kind of landed on like these two for just like the outcomes of the design sprint, which we will just a heads up that like the data in this is not super accurate. It was just stuff we threw in really quickly to get the idea together. So like the commits are all the same. Some of these like service health don't really, like if you click into it, there's like some errors, which it shouldn't be. But basically what we're looking to do is like have a way to register services on GitLab. So these could be like your APIs and how they move through environments. And within each service, you'd have kind of like the metrics that go into if it's like healthy, do you need to take action? Is there like a pending approval on a service? And then you would like click in and you'd get more details on this service, like what's the active deployment going into it right now? Where does it sit in like the topography of your kind of stream of things? What's the history? Is there anything pending? So this is kind of like the concept that came out of the design sprint, which we're really excited for because we think this solves a lot of our current problems with the environments area having a flow like this. But yeah, I will think that's a good overview, but now I'll open it up to like a discussion or conversation.
I'm just thinking, looking at this, that this is a very fresh perspective of looking at environments and how they work. Like you're keeping services at the center and then referencing to the environment, like from that point of view.
Mhm.
Keep like in case I'm very sure like this is going to get forward, you'll be validating and doing all of that. But this will also be having a decent amount of impact on how we present other resources in GitLab.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
this will affect quite a lot if we decide to go forward with
Yeah.
something like this.
And
So
I would say for good, because we are doing a solution validation for variables. And we are getting to hear a lot about how it's not intuitive for the developers on the team while they're creating a variable to like reference the right environment and define the purpose. And what they end up doing is they end up creating nuance each time and overriding it. So like having a consistent terminology for I think the whole of verify once your work like progresses to a stage where you are satisfied with the outcome would be a good thing to have like a small workshop for all the rest of us to see like how this will have an impact and what we can do to make the process smoother.
mhm. I think that makes a lot of sense. And for the validation, we just wrapped up. So the team was doing like internal testing quickly with so we did 3 internal tests. So each partner group did a test with someone in GitLab. I'm going to summarize kind of like the outcomes of that. And then we're going to plan on running like a proper solution validation study on this, as well as probably a navigation study, because we also have to figure out where this fits in the navigation.
Yeah. Yeah, and like how other resources would be grouped around environments, like things that are very related to or very dependent on environments, would they come together?
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, environments is very like environments and deployments are really closely related. So now we're going to relate more of like the deployment to the service, which is in an environment. So we're thinking of the environment as more of like a bucket that like services will sit in now versus like the environment being the place you go to take action on the deployment. It's kind of having like that middle section. So yeah, going to have to rethink a lot of the architecture. I think we need to draw out a whole like architecture map of how this would affect everything we're changing. But it's our initial idea. And we had a customer in the design sprint and backend engineers, and all 3 of them were super excited by the outcomes of this.
Nice. Thanks for doing this. I think it's a great start for many changes to come in future.
Mhm.
Yeah. Gina, to you.
Yeah, I agree with what Deepika was saying. And I also think I'm struggling now, but you just kind of helped me by saying environments are like buckets that services will sit in. I think I'm still trying to conceptualize how all the resources will relate to each other though with this new view. And I think this might also be an opportunity for our whole CI/CD team to conceptualize those different resources visually somehow in the UI, because today we have separate pages per resource. Like we have a section for jobs and pipelines, and then environments and runners, and in reality, they all actually connect to each other. And I think we could do a better job of showing that to users rather than having them separate.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think especially with like the pipelines and jobs, there'll be like link-ins, especially through this like deployment section. So how do you visualize that properly? We also need to think about like we have the deployment details page, which actually nicely sits in with this as well. And then how does that all work together?
Yeah, and then artifacts come in here too. I mean, build artifacts plus I don't know what you would call the other artifacts that are actually like generated from the environments. Yeah, there would be a lot of interlinking here. And then also I just wanted to note that I really like how you're combining metrics here and using those cards kind of to show like a visual representation of that service and where it lives. I think we should be doing more of that. I like it a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, that's something a lot of our engineers were saying was missing right now, especially with like the promote and rollback feature we have. Is the current feature we have for that is very, very simple, and having some sort of visual similar to how jobs, like the jobs and like the pipelines view has it. That was very missing from the environments view right now, is where things sit in the big scheme of things. Ellie, I noticed you have a question.
Yeah, if I guess the question's also got a similar theme to what Gina touched on, like bringing everything together. Like so the persona who is gonna be mostly benefit from this feature, I'd assume is mostly platform engineer type folks.
Yeah, we have 4 personas actually for this, which is the platform engineer, application ops, so Allison, the development team lead, and the release manager all kind of would relate into this.
Yeah, I guess from my experience with Configure, like some of the platform engineers, they work across groups and projects. And I was always thinking of ways for them to kind of navigate across all the resources that are being used across groups and projects. And I see there's things like approvals as well. Probably what Gina suggested about visualizing everything in one place might be beneficial. Might be a concept we need to pursue and help with those challenges. Because in some organizations it's 5,000 people using a GitLab instance, and it gets messy.
Yeah, this is something we're kind of struggling with, and I was encountering a lot in the group level environments. Solution validation is people do not use groups consistently, so designing something for groups is very difficult because people are using it in all different ways. So it's something we have to look into. I think we need more data about how people deal with services at the group level to be able to scale for that. And I think the answer to your question is we haven't really figured it out yet, how to do this at the instance group project. Like, what is the best way? Do we let them choose like how they want this to run? I think we still have to figure it out.
Emily, do you have either like a link to the job to be done for your group if they're still applicable, or could you help me understand why personas would want to come to this page and like what what they would take action on first?
Yeah, so our main persona, which is the one I'll focus on, is the platform engineer, Priyanka. So the task, we wanted to keep this high level page more of an overview. So there'd be no main action you take on this page other than kind of like overviewing the metrics of everything to do with your services, seeing service health. And then if you do need to take an action on this page, you would then click in here. Now this page has quite a few actions users would want to take. You could promote rollback, so move your deployment between things here, which is an action we've been struggling with making work really well. So that promotion, rollback, this is also where you can get more information into your deployment history. If there is like themes there that you want to figure out, get an understanding of your current deployment, like the status. So just that like metric status overview of the current deployment health. We're also playing around with adding things like feature flags, like an events log here as well. But we still have to figure out the exact like actions you would take with those. But yeah, basically it would be kind of like actions you take on a deployment, such as like promoting, rolling back, giving approval, overview of past deployments, would be the main tasks here. And for the jobs to be done, the environments group jobs to be done are kind of messy right now. They're not really shown anywhere because they're a big conglomerate of like release and configure jobs to be done. So that is something we actually do need to sort out sometime soon.
Okay. That helps me understand it. So the first page then is more like if you had to create a new job to be done, is it more just like getting an overview of how the health of your environments?
Yeah,
Most important? Okay.
the job is, what's the template for a job to be done? It's like, I want so that, what are the three?
Great question.
Because I could probably make, like, based on our design sprint, say one on the spot, but I'm forgetting the first sentence.
Okay, so it's when, whatever the scenario is, I need to blah blah blah. So I can. Yeah.
So this page, it's kind of like, oh no, I missed it. Mixed it up. Wait, jobs to be done, GitLab. I like how we can just Google things at GitLab and it comes up. Jobs.
I just wrote it out in the agenda. Hopefully that helps.
Oh, perfect. So this is kind of like when I'm monitoring my services, I want to make sure everything is running as expected.
Okay.
Kind of like so that I'm confident in what we're building or something. That's a very, very on the spot job to be done. But this page is really about wanting to know how your services are doing so you can be confident that you're building correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that helps. And the select environment drop down, would that filter the whole page?
Yeah, so the current services here are the ones in the production environment tier. You could do it to like QA to staging and then see what all your services are doing in each environment.
And that would also update the metrics shown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we might need to make that visualization clearer that affects everything.
Yeah. I've always had this feeling that the drop down that we use for filtering like major things on a page, it's too subtle.
I would agree.
So are the environments independent solely for this project, or can other projects use the same underlying infrastructure that's inside this project?
We were actually just talking about this during my design pairing session. And the engineers are kind of coming up with like, it would be cool for environments to not work at the project level, but be something that you can apply like across everything. But that's another architectural thing we'll have to play around with. So probably for MVC, it would work very similar to how we currently have environments, but in the long run, I think we'd want to really figure out how to make this work for everyone. And I think that is kind of like detaching environments from project and group level, but I'm not sure how we do that.
We have a workspace level now.
Yeah.
That might be actually a really good way to do it. And then you can just apply everything within to the workspace level environments.
So you say like this group must use this portion of, can use these environments. Yeah, that would be cool.
No, I like that a lot because that was something we were stuck at. I forgot we had workspaces now.
One
I think
other.
go ahead.
No, Ollie, you go.
No, I was gonna say the Kubernetes dashboard, the concept was also the same, that it's at the workspace or group level, and then somebody can just toggle between groups and projects and environments, vice versa. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, my last comment here, just because I've learned from, this is actually very similar to the job to be done for runners, but obviously not about services, about runners. And we learned that showing the analytics on the page is very difficult with performance. Although if you're building a new, like, if this has to update the architecture in the database anyways, maybe it will give you a chance to do it more in a performant way, but it's something to be aware of, because we got to add like 5 or 6 summary analytics, and then we had to stop doing that because it wasn't scalable and figure out another page to put those analytics. And I see that you have a link to view them all there, but it's just, yeah, something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's something we'll definitely. I actually took something inspiration from you about having it like not update in real time and have like the updated 2 minutes ago, just so this page doesn't have to run like in real time, because that would be a performance nightmare.
Yes, definitely. And then it brings a little bit more stress though, because the platform engineer wants to know what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Not updated. It's like, if there was a problem with one of the services, maybe it's already fixed, but we haven't updated the status, which is same thing with runners. Like if one of them is failing, maybe someone already fixed it and it still says it's failing.
Yeah, maybe this is something where it's like, it tells you when it's last updated, but you can also like manually update it or something.
Yeah, a manual like refresh button or something, that could be a good.
Because then, yeah, you're able to get the data right away, but we're not having all the problems we could, especially like this page, to everything real time here.
Yeah.
Would be difficult. So having like a manual refresh might be a good first way to do it, unless the engineers can figure out some way to do it real time. But
right, yeah, definitely a discussion you could have with them.
Yeah. And also, I mean, you can have it like, you can lean in on the data to understand like what are the most critical things that definitely have to be kept updated all the time, because not everything is as important.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, in the design sprint too, another thing came up where we were like, oh, can we rethink our single stat metrics to work something like this? Which everyone thought was really cool. So that's another one we're like, oh, is that something we can do? Because when we did some of the hallway testing, people were like, yeah, I like these metrics, but like in the grand scheme of things, is this good? Is this bad? Like, how is that relating? So we're like, oh, if we put a mini average graph behind some of them, maybe that'll help. But that's another thing we'd have to. This is a very North Star concept, and I know we have to break it down quite a bit.
I think it's a great North Star concept though.
Right.
And I guess the last thing is design sprints are fun. So if anyone wants to run one, let me know, because I think we took a lot of like the learnings Victor had from previous ones where he ran one fully sync, it didn't work. He ran one fully async, it didn't work. So we were trying to like find a balance of like, how do you run it partially sync and partially async?
I might need your help with that because I have one coming in up for November this year. It's we have a lot of time, but it's going to be like it's going to happen at KubeCon, but I won't be there. I have to do things remotely with the help of everybody else who's going to be on the booth. So I'll start creating a plan for that, but I will definitely loop you in.
Cool. Sounds good. Where is KubeCon this year in North America?
It's in Chicago. It's like literally here, but I don't think we don't have the budget.
Yeah. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's so close. It's like an 8-hour drive. It's so close.
Right.
Well, that's kind of all I had to share. Thanks again for all the feedback. I know it's like a very, very early concept that we don't have a lot of user research in, but this gives me a lot to think about, and I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. It was fun to look at this, and also like it gives, I think, hope to many of us that things can be looked at from a very different perspective and make more sense that way.
Yeah. I think that's what I was running into when I was trying to do the group level environments is just the same perspective. We were always looking at environments, and Victor was very much like, no, let's just like pretend environments doesn't exist, and like how would we design the perfect like environments feature, and then this kind of landed from that.
Right.
I have one other question for you, Emily. Do you have, I know it's early, so it's okay if you don't have an answer. Do you have an idea of what the research plan will look like for when you want to test this and like what you want to test first?
I think we want to keep to like these 2 pages. So I know we'll have to build out a lot around this, like notifications, the navigation, everything, but I believe the initial testing will just be an updated version of these 2 concepts from our hallway testing from the design sprint. And we'll really be wanting to understand, like, first off, is this concept something people would actually use? Is it something they're excited about? Does it work with their workflow? But also, are the actions and metrics we're showing the proper ones? And is there something we're missing, especially actions wise, that people would like to take on both pages? So it's a very, very brief idea before we've written the solution validation like
Yeah,
discussion guide, but those are the general things we want to make sure is like, is this concept going to work better for you than what we currently have? And is it giving you everything you need data wise and action wise?
do we use these pages internally too at GitLab? Like, do we dog food them?
I think what do you mean these pages? Like the current?
Like, I guess if we talk about the current implementation, do they use like, do our GitLab internal members use the environments pages?
Yes, they do. And we actually had someone from that delivery team on the sprint, which was very, very helpful
Oh, nice.
because
The
he was
delivery
able
team
to,
is great.
yeah, he was able to give us a lot of input on how this would be significantly better for them than the current experience.
That's cool. Because maybe to make the recruitment easier for research, you could do a combination of internal and external then if we dog food it.
Yeah, I think if we can get like the delivery team or people in that infrastructure lounge Slack channel, they'd be like great participants for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect. So are we at time or do we have more time? Anyway, yeah, any other questions? We do have time. Okay, so if there's nothing more, let's end it here. And it was a great session. Thanks, Emily, and thanks everyone for taking out time. Yeah, we'll see each other in another meeting. I'm not sure when that is.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Thank you.